All right, so it's Todd Atkins, and I'm here with Chelsea Connor. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. And before we start, I just want to say thanks to Live to Fight Design. Chelsea's worked with them. They help sponsor my show. You can see my promo code there, Todd Atkins. If you order a banner, you can get $20 off your order. Now, Chelsea, I kind of want to get into. We all find the sport at different times. I found it a long time ago, but do you remember like when you first found it?
So I was 18 when I first started MMA. I'm 32 now. As a kid, my uncle did karate, and I always kind of idolized him with just his demeanor. He just had so much like confidence about himself, the way that he carried him. So ever since I was a little kid, honestly, it was something that I was interested in. I just never had the opportunity to actually do it. So when I turned 18, I was like, listen, I don't need my parents' approval no longer. I'm doing this. So I that's where I kind of started. I found a gym, started training, and I loved it. So yeah.
So that was about 2009. Do you remember, like, was it a
Yep.
fight you were exposed to, or did somebody expose you to the training?
So it was I it was an MMA gym that I showed up at and just started training. The training back in 2009, there wasn't a whole lot of gyms that like had really great training. It was just like, are you tough? Can you get hit? Do you want to hit people? Cool. We'll throw you in a cage next week. So I was kind of in one of those gyms. I trained for I want to say like a month and a half, and they threw me in the cage, and um I was just mean. I was just more aggressive. So my first two fights with that gym were good fights for me, just because the talent, at that stage of the game really wasn't there, and I was meaner. So yeah, they went well for me.
So they threw you in early. Did you have any reservations about that, or was it just you didn't really mind what they were doing?
um as far as the gym, there's a lot of stuff with the gym that I now, as a 32-year-old, I realized like it was really wrong with some of the stuff that was going on at the gym. Um, but the training side of things, as far as like, I don't know what type of question you were asking me, whether it was like, did you mind like fighting and things like that? I didn't mind that at all. That was something like I enjoyed the competitiveness of like, hey, I get to hit you, you get to hit me. That's cool. That was really cool to me. But I understand now, like, the type of training that we were doing, the way that the gym was ran, it was not good. So yeah.
Because I think you still see that now, where some people are learning on the job.
Hmm.
Maybe like a Max Holloway, Charles Oliveira, these guys that fought a long time. They took losses early.
Yeah.
Now they're really, really good, but they might have been inexperienced for when they got to a high level or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So you kind of started early. You didn't have any reservations about starting when you haven't been training very long.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that could have just been like the gym that I was at, because they didn't care. So like a lot of us fighters that were there, we didn't care. It was basically you just had to prove you were tough, and that's how you proved you were tough, was getting in the cage. So it was almost like I don't know, maybe like an ego thing, or like they the coach there really didn't like, I guess, care. Like the coach that I have now, and myself as a coach, like we really care about the product that we're putting in the cage, and that wasn't the focus at my very first gym. Like they didn't care, just get on there, get in, and see what happens. So yeah, I think it just depends on what gym you're at, really, on like they might be able to press someone in to get them to, like you said, like learn on the job, like there are still gyms. I know gyms like that just get in there. Like you need more experience in the cage, more ring experience. And it's like, no, they need to be drilling more. Like they need a coach to actually teach them how to do this, and drill a little bit more before you get in that cage. So yeah, there's a mix of it.
So, I mean, in hindsight, as a coach, maybe you're thinking you'd rather 'em reach maybe somewhat of a high level on certain, maybe 1 or 2 skills before doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. As a coach now, yes. Yeah. I do I it's kind of tough because I think um I enjoy fighting. So like for me, if I wouldn't have gotten those opportunities to fight that early in, um, who knows like if I would have like continued on with how everything turned out at that gym, like had I not gotten in the cage and actually like found out who I was and what I was about inside there. And I was just going through this training that was, like I wasn't able to compete, maybe I wouldn't have stuck with MMA, so I don't regret getting in there as early as I did, but I don't want that for my fighters, the people that I put my name on. I want to make sure they're more than ready to get in that, into whether it's a cage or ring, whatever it is, when they step in, I want to make sure that they're ready. So, um, it was what it was with myself, but I wouldn't do it to someone else, if that makes sense.
How long would you want them to train looking back on it and kind of your experience now? Or is it more like tuned to who the person is or their background?
Yeah, yeah. I think it definitely depends on like their background. Um and if they've like, if you have like a wrestler that wrestled all through high school, and has that experience, they might be able to um get in there a little bit earlier than someone that's like never ever done this. That's looking like, "Hey, I might sign up for a self-defense class," and then they get in here and we're like, "Wow, like you're actually really good and could do something." You know, yeah, maybe a few months, of a variance there. But me personally, I'd like them to at least train for a solid 6 months, like minimum, before they're going to get in there and do anything. So, yeah, that's 6 months to a year, I think. If you, depending on what the fighter wants out of it too, like if it's a bucket list thing, like they can get away with, like, hey, you know what it is, we know what it is. We can try and get you a favorable matchup, but if the time clock's ticking, they want to get in there sooner, like we don't want to hold anyone back either, but we want them to be safe, so like if we can find the right matchup for them, sure, they could take that fight maybe a little bit earlier than the 6 months or whatever. But yeah, I think it depends on the person, honestly.
Now, tell me, like, when did you start to get into coaching?
Oh goodness, I started coaching in 2000 and probably 16, I want to say. I started doing some women's classes, and some kids classes. um and now I do quite a bit of coaching now. I coach wrestling at Miami East, and so that's outside of like the MMA, but I do that, and then obviously coach at my gym here, at Smileback Training Center. So I've been, yeah, probably since about 2016 coaching.
Now, tell me kind of about your amateur career. I don't want you to have to like go through every fight because that could be kind of mundane, but maybe some of the lessons you learned and from the experiences over that time.
Hmm. So, my amateur career, I had my first two fights that I talked about earlier, and then I stepped away from MMA. I didn't have, like I said, the coach that I had, just I could go on and on about that. I need like a documentary on myself, to get real into that one. So I'm not going to get too far into that, but I took some time away from MMA after going through everything that I went through with my first coach. Had a kid, got married, had a kid, um, and then came back to MMA about 4 years later. And that's when I found the gym that I'm at now. Um, and they had a completely different system. They kind of built me, uh, like my at my very first gym, I started just striking basically. I had no ground game whatsoever. So the gym that I'm at now, Fightopia, they built my ground, my coach forced me to get into a wrestling room. I've spent the past 7, 8 years now in very high level wrestling rooms. So it was never something. I did not like wrestling. I didn't want to do it. But that's something that's been huge for me in MMA. It's a great fallback, because if you don't know how to wrestle, most fights go to the ground, and you're going to be in trouble. So that's probably the biggest thing from my amateur career that I took from it, is putting the time in a wrestling room, and understanding the importance of having high level wrestling for fighting. My first fight with my gym that I'm with now, I lost it. It was a split decision. I went up in weight, and was just I was in a really rough spot in life at that time. My ex-husband at the time had just cheated on me, and I was just like ready to get in there, and I didn't care who they put in front of me. I didn't care whether it was Mike Tyson. Like, I was ready to just go in there and just, for me, it was a pain relief thing. So I went in and lost a split decision on that one. That was kind of the best thing that happened to me in my amateur career. When I lost and I felt that feeling, I was like, oh my God, like, that was tough. That was real tough to swallow. And I remember coming back to the gym that Monday after the fight, and my nose, I had to go get nose surgery. I had a septal hematoma. My nose was wrecked. And I remember looking at my coach and I said, if I ever fight like that again, like, I never want to do this ever again. Like, that's not who I am. That early on, like, it just didn't register to me, like, how that happened, because I was used to winning. And I'm like, I was just really upset, with how everything went for that fight. And he told me, he was like, well, then get out of my gym. He was like, I don't want to coach you. If that's your mentality, like, get out of my gym. And I just like was like, what did you just say? Like, I couldn't believe he said it to me. And that, like, really helped center me into, like, okay, that is kind of a weak mindset to have. Like, you're gonna have good nights, you're gonna have bad nights, and that was a bad night for me. I fought very emotional, and like, it just wasn't, I wasn't using my brain in that fight. So I recovered from that. That's when I started training, doing all my wrestling. And then we just went on a streak after that. It was like I was untouchable. And so my next few fights, they were really good for me. And then I was preparing for, I believe it was my second to last amateur fight. We were kind of tail end of fight camp, and so I was coming down from, like, hard rounds and stuff, and I got injured during training, and I tore my bicep and labrum. And so I went into my second to last amateur fight with a torn bicep and labrum, and I was like, listen, if I can't beat this girl with one arm, like, I shouldn't be doing this. We're almost at the end of my amateur career, like, let's get in there. We knew the girl that I was fighting wasn't on my level, so it was like, cool, we're fine here. So I went in, beat her with one arm, had a shoulder surgery like a week later. 9 month recovery right into my very last amateur fight. And we didn't know, going into that fight, we hadn't really tested my shoulder. We knew who I was as a fighter and what I could do, but as far as knowing whether it was going to work or not, we're like, well, we're going to find out. So we went into that fight, won that fight, turned pro after that. That was my last fight as an amateur. And then, once we turned pro, that was a whole other thing. So yeah.
Well, I mean, like your early pro fights, you were saying it's different. What was kind of different about it?
We were having a tough time finding. So I was wanting to make my pro debut here in Ohio. We were having a tough time finding opponents and things, so I had to travel out of state again, which I had already been doing for my amateur fights. So I was already kind of like in that mode anyway, so it wasn't a big deal. But I feel like with the professional level, and it could have just been my very first opponent, it was like I didn't feel as an amateur I really had to put on a show that much, as far as like the lead up and if you consider like trash talking, all that stuff, like that was never a thing for me as an amateur. And that was a really big thing when I turned pro, like, hey, you got to sell this fight. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I will when I get in there and you watch me fight. That's how I sell the fight. Like, I promise you'll be happy when you watch me fight. I'm not much of a talker like that, like I'm not gonna insult people and things like that. And that was something that I dealt with when I made that pro transition to like having to be more of a personality, and finding that was the big transition there.
Yeah, it's kind of like strange, like, they say you have to sell the fight, in some ways it's like, and the promoter needs to be so, they're a promoter,
Yeah.
I've never really got that whole thing. It's something that came along, like in the beginning, it wasn't like that. They weren't telling guys they needed to sell their
Yeah.
fight at
Yeah,
all.
exactly. Yeah.
Somewhere that happened where the promoters put the onus on. I don't know why that happened. I don't know how they managed to do that, to
Yeah.
change the mentality of, like, the promoter can just sit around and not do anything, and it's
Yeah.
if this fight doesn't sell, it's your fault. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? You're
Yeah.
the circus guy, you're the one who's supposed to bring everybody in the tent, not me.
Yeah,
I'm
for
here
sure.
to perform. I
Yeah.
don't get it.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
know?
That was a tough one for me to understand too.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I know when it happened and whatnot, but I'm just don't understand how they've turned that whole
Yeah.
mentality on its head to where a promoter can just, I don't have to do anything. It's you guys'
Yeah.
fault if no one comes.
Yeah. We just want the paycheck. They
Yeah,
don't care.
yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
Now, you just fought uh Aline, right? Is
Yes.
that it? Pereira. So kind of tell me,
Yeah.
like, how did this fight come about, first off?
Oh, goodness. Okay. So, that my coach, but I have two coaches, my strength and conditioning coach and then my head MMA coach. Um, they partnered up and they had their first MMA show. And I was supposed to, so I had a kid. I've been on the, um, before I took that fight with Aline, I had been on a 5-year layoff. So I had a kid, had a surgery, had two surgeries in the mix of that, and was just trying to kind of like um, figure out if fighting's what I wanted to do anymore. Like I love the sport, and like I said, I've taken time off to just get my mind right. Because there's a lot of dirtiness in this sport.
Oh yeah.
And I'm a very genuine person, so like I get hurt pretty easily, when people aren't loyal, when things are done that they're just not good things to do to people. So for me, after my fight for King of the Cage's professional world title, um I lost that one, and it's a tough one. If you watch it, I feel personally I lost a decision. It was a really close fight, but I felt as a fighter, I should have won it. Um, but yeah, nonetheless, I was just kind of turned off at that point, and I just needed a break. So we took the little break. We closed our gym at that time. Then COVID happened. Um, and we're like, oh man, like maybe I'm just done with fighting. And but I'm still an athlete, like what am I going to do with all this? Like I got to do something. I can't just sit on the couch. So we actually started training for football, and we were doing like just backyard football workouts. My coach, who's also my husband, he's a football coach as well. So I was just training with a whole bunch of high school boys that were getting ready to go off for college that during COVID didn't have any place to train. So we trained everyone in our backyard. It was fun. I was enjoying it. We considered me trying out for one of the female football teams. And then I was like, we started going to some MMA gyms, and I got back into it, and I was like, man, I just love fighting. It was just something that I'm like, I got to see if I got it in me anymore. Like, I love it. What happens if I get in there? Do I still actually love it? So we were planning to host our own MMA show here in Miami County. So I was going to be able to fight. It's been over 8 years, I think, since I fought here in Ohio. So I was going to make my comeback here in Ohio, like in my hometown. I was going to do that. They were going to find someone, whoever wanted to come in and fight me. We are going to, just get back in the cage. And the guy that was helping put the show together, called us up and was like, hey, I got an opportunity that I know it's the day before your guys' fight show, and Chelsea was supposed to fight on that, but you might want to look at this one. And it was for LFA to fight Aline Pereira. And we're like, man, at 125, I fight at 115. But I didn't want to do a hard weight cut. 115 is a pretty hard weight cut for me. And I didn't want to do that coming right back. I'm working with a nutritionist, Eddie Robinock, right now. He's incredible. He made me make 125, not even trying. So 115 is not going to be an issue anymore. Cause that was something that in the past, that was another reason why I kind of wanted to get away from MMA. I was making really hard weight cuts. So Eddie, was amazing. Got me to 125, no problem. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, I did this not even trying. I was really undersized going into that Aline Pereira fight. But we knew it was just an opportunity. Like, it didn't matter what happened in there. Fighting a name like that gives me so much clout, so it was what it was, whatever happened in there. And I truly felt going into the fight that I had the edge, because her MMA experience, she doesn't have any MMA experience, so I'm like, dude, I've been doing this forever. Like, I'm going to take her right to the ground and the fight's going to be over with. Well, the first round, it was an okay round for me. She outdid me on the striking. But we were counting on her and her brother both throw that straight two with that, leaping lead hook. And we were banking on that leaping lead hook. She threw it in the first round and I took her right down off of it. But it was like the clackers were going off, there's 10 seconds left. Mm-hmm. So she didn't throw that the rest of the fight and just kept me away with her jab, with her cross. Man, she hit me so darn hard in that second round where I saw the lights and I was like, oh shit, this girl has what it takes to like knock me out, and I've never been hit that hard in the cage. And so I just knew after halfway through that second round, like, I kind of just abandoned the game plan of taking her down, because I'm like, shit, when I'm closing the distance, like, she's lighting me up, and I didn't want to be a highlight reel finish for her. So I was like, man, I'm just going to kind of dance around with her, kind of pick and choose. And if I get the takedown, great. But I was waiting for her to aggress me a bit more, so I could get the takedown. And she did incredible, sticking to her guns, sticking to her game plan, man. She did great. So mad respect to her on her game plan and sticking to it. Her coaches, they planned great for me. But it was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. Fighting for LFA was amazing. They were nothing but professional. I can't say enough great things about that promotion. Like, I am super just grateful for the opportunity to fight for them. I hope they have me back. I think they maybe liked me a little bit. So I hope they have me back. But yeah, it was, like I said, the opportunity was one that I was like, man, I got to take it. As much as I wanted to fight here at home, and fight someone that it would have been an easy win for me. Um, Man, there's not many opportunities like I got. So to, come off of a 5-year layoff and I get to fight, I think she's ranked number 4 in Glory kickboxing. Her brother's a ex UFC world champion, like the name credit that that name has, and I have that on my resume as a decision loss. I'm okay with it. Like I'm not a loser. I don't like to lose, but I was okay with dropping that one. She didn't knock me out. Thank God for that. I ate a hellacious knee in that 3rd round that everyone was just as shocked as I was that I stayed standing on that. I was like, man, it was a rough one. But yeah, I'm proud of getting in there with her, because they're gonna have a tough time finding fights for her. Like, yeah, that girl's gonna be a really big problem for a lot of other females.
I want to ask you, like, because you hear people say that a lot. I had to take this, or this is something I couldn't pass up. Maybe so people understand your perspective. Why did you feel you had to do it? Because everyone has their own reason. So tell me why you thought you had to do it.
Um, right now we're kind of building like a girls team, and I'm trying to open up as many pathways for my girls that I can. I'm the old seasoned veteran, as you could say. And so I'm just opening up opportunities for my teammates, really. That was my biggest reason for taking the fight. I fought for a professional world title, and arguably won it. Like it sucks that I don't have that belt to show off. But I've done what I guess I wanted to. I never honestly expected to be a professional athlete, if I'm being honest with you. So like for me, it's building things for the next generation is why I felt like I needed to take it.
Did your coaches say, yeah, okay, well, go ahead? Or was there any kind of
Um,
talk back
they,
and forth or?
they let me make this decision like 100% on my own, because they were like, we're not saying yes to it and we're not saying no to it. Like this is your choice. They loved that I said yes to it. They were like, man, we were hoping you would, but they didn't stray me in any way. They knew, like, the thing that sucked was the show that we put on. That was our show that we would have made tons of money, me being on it. I would have sold the venue out. There's so much money to be made off of me fighting here at home. But they know, me getting to fight Aline Pereira, what that does for everyone else, and just being on a bigger stage like that than in a barn, here in Miami County. Um, it was the right move. They agreed with me that it was the right move.
Yeah, plus they have a lot of shows. So like you were saying,
Yeah. Yeah.
the chance of coming back is something that, probably could happen.
Yes.
Did Ed like talk to you, or, Sven, or any of those people at LFA?
Yeah, I had oh goodness. They did, because they moved me up to the main card. So I went through like all the interviews and stuff. It was kind of funny because I walked into the interview room and Loyola Machida was sitting there, and I was like, like he interviewed me.
Yeah.
And I just so badly wanted to run up to him and be like, can I get a picture real fast? But I'm like, oh, this is about me right now. Like I can't have that moment. Cool though. I saw him in the hotel later that night and got my picture. So yeah, I talked to everyone there at LFA.
Yeah, I think Ed Soares used to manage Leota. If I think he did.
Oh,
Pretty
really?
sure he did. Yeah. Yeah,
That's
back in the
cool.
day.
Yeah. Really
So,
nice guy.
and who was it? Like, I remember you mentioned, but who was it that offered you the fight, or was it they talked to your coaches and your coaches told you about it?
It was he's up north, Gary Young. He's the one so he's Dylan Bucka's coach. Yeah.
Okay. And so you're
Yeah.
saying, you're fighting someone who had a lot of height on you and reach, like, it is a little weird because I always look at it like, yeah, you have weight classes, but height and reach is an advantage. They call it that for a reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? On the on the tail of the tape. They don't call it a disadvantage. This person, yeah, it's
Right.
it's looking back on it, like how difficult is that? To
Um, I kept on saying, like, obviously when you find out who you're fighting, you do a little bit of research on them. And I looked at pictures of her and I was like, man, she looks big, and then people are saying like she doesn't really cut to get to 125. And I'm like, okay, so I I personally really did think like I'm always the little person, like, and when I get inside and I get you down, like it's bad. It's really bad for people, So, and I typically train with mostly guys, so like the power and strength, like I'm used to that, I'm used to being overpowered. um and having to use a technique or whatever I got to do to get it, get the fight where I need it to go. I have great training partners that help me, be able to do that. So I really, going into the fight, I really didn't think it was going to be a problem. I mean, shoot, I fought Heather Denny. Granted, it was at 115 pounds, but she was literally 6 foot tall, and I finished her in the first round. Like it wasn't anything. So I really didn't think like the height difference does not bother me at all. I think it's more of a disadvantage for them, honestly, especially with how strong I am. I know as soon as I close the distance, it's bad. Like, but she didn't allow me to close the distance. So that's the thing. But like someone of her level of striking, like that, I don't want to make it sound like I can't hang with 125ers who are her size, her structure, because I do think anyone else at 125 I smoke. But her and her level of striking, man, that's a tough thing to deal with. Like she is very elite with I mean, she's a legit kickboxer. And yeah, it is definitely something at her talent level, her skill level was tough for me to deal with, but I don't think, I mean, I'm going back to 115, but I think I can hold my own just fine with normal 125ers. That girl is not normal. she is she's a she's a problem.
so how soon do you think you want to compete again?
So right now we got something in the works for August 26th. I was wanting to go down and compete at Naga June 15th, I think. I've taken 2 weeks off to heal my face up because it was bad. I had a little cut and you can still see I got my eyes still busted a little bit, but I mean the first week I couldn't do anything. I moved around a bit on like mitts, but I just took that week off and then we went on vacation last week. So I've not trained in 2 weeks. So I don't know realistically if competing at Naga is going to be what we do, or I know we are planning on taking the team down there to compete, but we have a boxing show the very next day for boom boxing down in Cincinnati. So now I don't think the team's going, so I don't know if I'm going. I'm not real sure. So I might do a little bit of grappling in between, but my next MMA fight's supposed to be August 26th is what we're preparing for.
Where'd you go on vacation?
Myrtle Beach.
Oh man, I've never been there. How is it?
Yeah, my first time going. It was nice. It was really awesome.
Like compared to like Florida or a place like Hawaii, like how is the beach and
Um,
stuff?
uh, Shoot, I think we only made it to the beach one time. We
Hmm.
were there for 4 days. We switched resorts while we were there. The first resort that we went to wasn't that good, so we switched to a different one. And then when we got to our second one, it was amazing. There was so much stuff to do there, so we didn't even go to the beach. So there was a lot of stuff to do there that the beach when we went to the beach twice, and it was very crowded when we went. So, but it looked like a nice beach, but we just didn't spend a whole lot of time there.
Oh, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know what show it is you might fight in August, or you just is that just kind of like a timeline?
It's I think it's Renegade Rumble is the promotion. So it's with the same guys that we worked with for our MMA show. Um, they're doing theirs. So yeah.
Now the MMA show, yours, are you going to be part of it as far as promoting it or matchmaking it
Um,
or?
I don't. There is something that I'm going to be doing on it, and I can't remember what they told me that I'll be doing. I won't be matchmaking. I don't think I'm going to be the promoter either, but there's something there's something that I am going to be doing. I don't know. This fight, with everything that we had going on, like I kind of couldn't even be a part of the fight show, which really sucked. Because I had to focus on my fight camp, and there was a lot with like, so I run our gym now, and so like collecting payments and things like that, everything that you got to keep up on a business, I have to do that now. So before, back in the day, I didn't have any of those responsibilities and I could just focus on training. Now I have to run a business, and I have two kids on top of it, so there's a lot of like juggling and just things that I have to understand I can't be a part of. So our MMA show, because we're going to be doing MMA, boxing, and possibly some grappling. Um, I kind of just let my coaches do that, and not even mess with it. If I need to do something, like I said, they told me that I was going to be doing something, but I kind of didn't listen. So I don't know. When it comes, I'll do whatever they need me to do.
You have to figure out the day of.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Tell me about your gym. I mean, it's something that you help run. Tell me about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So we had the gym Fightopia for that was founded in like 2016. My coach, who, like I said, is my husband, he was the founder of that. It started out just in a garage, and they kind of just built a whole bunch of mean tough dudes, that wanted to get in the cage and fight. And they did that for years. They've been to a few different locations. They moved around. They always stayed here in Piqua, but had a few different gyms. And then I started training with Fightopia in 2014, I believe. I believe it was 2014. And it was kind of like, then my now husband, he was running everything, and he was just kind of getting burnt out. And then I came in, and he was like, it kind of lit the fire. When I got there, it kind of lit the fire back into him to want to coach. So he kept the gym open because he was contemplating moving out of state and like just closing the gym down.
Oh, wow.
So he kept the gym, he kept the gym open for me. And then we grew real close. We kind of just became best friends in the mix of just training. And he knew what was going on in my life. Like I said, my ex-husband, there was some issues there, and he knew I was going to be leaving, but I just didn't have, I was in a shit position not be able, I was trapped, I couldn't really leave financially. So I was just in a position where I was just surviving, and he, kind of approached me and was like, hey, I think I can help you. Is this something you're interested in? And so him and I ended up becoming a couple. And we were still running the gym the way that it used to be ran. And it ended up like we were paying the bills for the place. No one was paying gym dues. It just wasn't structured that way. It was more of just we were bringing people in basically as family and letting people train for free. And we got burnt quite a bit doing that. And we had a lot of very unloyal, just not trustworthy people that we thought we're a family, kind of stab us in the back. And it was just not worth it anymore. So we closed it down. Um, we had a small little gym in our garage, and we focused on our finances, getting our life right, and focusing on us, which was great for our relationship. And I mean, it saved our relationship, just saved our marriage, so it was great that it happened. But then, like I said, we started the football stuff, and some of the football guys were like, hey, I might want to try that fighting stuff, so we started, going and kind of guest spotting at other MMA gyms and things like that. And then we are like, hey, crap, we got some people like interested in what we do. Like, we kind of got to open up a gym, so that's what we did. And I was like, listen, if we open up the gym, like, I'm going to be in charge of it, and I'm going to make sure people are paying their gym dues, that we're not taking this on ourselves, because we can't. Like, we have a family. We have to be able to financially, take care of our personal things. So that was the game plan when we started the gym back up. Was we rebranded it to Smileback Training Center. So it's a bit more inviting than Fightopia. We have kids classes, we have women's classes, beginner classes. So you're not, when we had old Fightopia, it was just the fight team training. We didn't have really, we would occasionally have a kids class, the classes that honestly keep the gym afloat, we didn't really have a lot of those. So now it's structured where we have those. We're offering gi jujitsu now. Like, we have so much now that it's just rebranding it the way that we did really has paid off big time. So yeah, we're getting ready to do another expansion come January 1st. So actually, is today July 1st? 2nd. Oh my gosh. Wow. I missed it. So
Tuesday is the 4th.
wow, holy smokes. Well, I feel dumb. I should have made it. So July 1st, it was our year anniversary of having the gym open. That tells you how busy I am. I should have definitely made a post on that. But yeah, we've been open for a whole year now at this location. And we're going to be expanding to a gym with it will be 5,000 square feet in total. We'll have a competition boxing ring and a competition MMA cage with I think 3,000 square foot of extra mats around it to be able to work. I think we'll have 7 heavy bags. So it's gonna be a great location for us. But as I was saying earlier, this spot here, it's a small little, we have 1,200 square foot mats, we have some punching bags and things like that, but it was just supposed to be like a little gym that the bills got paid for the gym and just something that I could train in, like we weren't trying to make it what it's becoming. It's kind of exploding, and we're kind of being pushed into bigger things, which is cool. We love it. This is our passion. So it's just a very I don't know, pretty humbling to be able to like get paid to do what you love. Like, my husband and I, we just love the sport. I know, like, what the sport's done for me, and like the confidence it's given me, just the self-love that I love myself because of the sport. The sport has just, I've gotten so much from it. I've met a lot of incredible people, and I've just experienced things that most normal people will never experience in life. So it's just super rewarding, like to be able to be like, it feels very surreal to say I own my own gym. I'm the CEO of Smileback Training Center. Like, that, to me, it still feels weird saying that, because it's just something I love. It's something I'm passionate about, and I love it. So it's really cool. It's an awesome, awesome thing.
When the gym expands, what goes into that? Is it just we have too many people?
Um, yeah. Yeah, we have right now, like our fighter practices. I mean, we're training on 1,200 square foot of mats, and we're like shoulder to shoulder trying to warm up. Like we don't have the space. We've outgrown the space. And it's literally just we've outgrown it, like we want to be able to host our own boxing events, our own MMA events. And right now we have to rent a cage. We have to rent a boxing ring for our events, where if we have a location where we can use them, which is great to be able to train in a cage and in a boxing ring. And we can also use it for our show. It saves us. I mean, it cost us money, but it's an investment that's worth investing in because it's going to make us money in the long run.
Well, Chelsea, I appreciate, you taking the time to do all this. And, as we're wrapping up the interview, is there anything else like that you want people to know about or where they could follow you or some things you're doing?
Yeah, for sure. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. It's Chelsea Connor MMA. Yeah, that's where you follow me at. Stay up to date with everything that I got going on. Like I said, I should be competing in the cage again August 26th. It should be in Findlay, Ohio. So I've not, if you're watching this, I've not said anything. I've not made a post about that yet. So yeah, hopefully everyone tunes in and hears that. But yeah, that's really it.
Well, again, I appreciate you taking time. It's great talking to you and great meeting you. And yeah, we'll have to catch up again after your fight or something.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it great too. And as everybody watching this, thank you for supporting it and check out Chelsea. And until next time, take care.
Awesome. Thank